So good news, I got my levers put on like I was hoping to. The last video I did, I purchased them, but I hadn't had a chance to put them on yet. So they are on now. They're FP levers, and I like them quite a bit. The adjustability on them is really good. It kind of fits into the aspect of the video today, so I'll get into it a little bit more. I also added, there's a bottom piece that goes on my helmet right below the chin, and it helps to keep out a lot of wind noise. And I think during my last video I had a lot more wind than I usually did in my videos from last summer. And I remember pulling that part out of the box when I bought the helmet, and I thought that it may have been that piece that I was thinking that it was, but I just never put it on. And after I edited the video and actually posted it, I realized there's a lot more wind noise than what I would have liked. So I ended up going and finding that piece once I pulled it out and put it on the helmet. So hopefully the audio is a little bit better this time around. I want to do a video today on rider fatigue. It becomes a pretty big topic for a lot of sport bike riders and a lot of people that aren't familiar with how to ride a sport bike and things you can do to help prevent rider fatigue. A lot of sport bikes get the reputation for being uncomfortable to ride and hard to ride and etc., etc. And that's not necessarily the case if you follow the proper steps and procedures that will help prevent a lot of the problems that bring about fatigue and stiffness and soreness while you're riding. So I just wanted to cover a few of those things today. I did a video last summer, it was called Rider Tips 101, that touched upon riding positioning while on a sport bike, the proper position that you want to be in. And I'm going to kind of go through that just a little bit real quick, just kind of a refresher, because it does tie into the video for now, but I don't want to rehash what I've already talked about before. But one of the main things when riding a sport bike is people don't get the body positioning right. When they're sitting on a sport bike, they think that all of your weight should be forward and you're hunched over the tank and all your weight's on your handlebars, and that's not the proper way to ride. You want to hold yourself up with the insides of your legs, like down here against the tank. Every bike manufacturer, their tank has an indentation on the side, and that's meant to grip the tank with the insides of your legs. And you hold yourself up with the core part of your abdomen, your abs, and everything else, and you hold yourself up that way, and you hold the tank with your legs, and that's how you position yourself on the bike. You want a very light grip on the handlebars. You almost want your elbows and your upper torso to be like a shock absorber, so you can freely move up and down. You don't want to have your hands or your elbows locked in a straight forward position. You'll tire yourself out really quick, and it won't be too long before your riding day is done, because you'll be too worn out from improper riding position. I can't believe there's still snow up there. Ski resort for anyone that doesn't know it. One of the other things about rider fatigue is a lot of it comes down to your physical ability to ride. What kind of shape are you in, basically? I don't say you have to be a triathlon runner or anything like that in order to ride a motorcycle, but if you can't get up from the couch to the fridge without losing your breath, then you're going to have problems doing long distance riding on a bike over 50 or 60 miles. Just doing anything to stay active helps. Anything to increase your heart rate or increase your pulse rate, or anything just to get your body more conditioned to exertion or anything like that. Well, it all helps in the long run. But one of the other major things that helps a lot is the flexibility. Usually you don't think that stretching or anything like that would be a key point in riding, but it actually is. The more limber that you are, the better off you are for riding. I'm going to get through this before I continue. more flexible and the more limber you are while you're riding, helps a lot more than you think. It just helps battle a lot of the fatigue issues as far as cramping up, as far as being uncomfortable on the bike. If you do stretches on a regular basis, anything to stretch out ligaments and muscles or anything like that, it will all help as far as when you're on the bike. And the longer distance you ride, the more you're in the same position over time, the more likely you are to become uncomfortable and tire yourself out. So if you can stretch beforehand, before you ride, even days when you're not riding, anything like that will definitely help overall. It also helps a lot if you can stop every once in a while. It doesn't have to be, every 15 or 20 minutes, of course, but if you can just stop and get off the bike for a little while, and just to get your blood circulating. Because when you're stuck in this position for a long time with your legs bent, whether you are like this or hunched over the tank or anything like that, it all adds up as far as fatigue throughout the day. So if you can stop and check your phone, stop and check Facebook, anything like that, make a phone call, text a few people, stop and get gas. That is one big hole. Anything like that, it will help too along your day. And also while you're riding, you don't have to be in the same position all the time. I move around on my bike a lot. I don't stay in the same seating position the entire time. I go from holding both handlebars to holding one, and I find that helps quite a bit as well. Most of the time I ride with one hand on the tank or one hand on my leg, and that's not really unsafe at all. It's just being in a different position, being able to change your body posture a little bit will help overall as well. And I hope that's the end of that freaking construction. Oftentimes I'll take my foot off the peg and just let it dangle just a little bit, not touching the rope. As far as how the levers tie into all of this, when you have the stock levers on any sport bike, they're made for one size fits all, and not all riders have the same hand size or the same reach, different length fingers, and it's all a factor in how far you have to reach for the lever. With a lot of the aftermarket levers, such as these ones, they have a dial. These go through 1 through 6, and when you increase the number on it, it's how far away the lever moves away from the handlebar. So if you have a longer reach, you would set the setting to like 5 or 6, and someone with a shorter reach would have it at the lower end on 2 or 3 or 1. And when you're riding, you don't want to be reaching for either the brake or the handlebar. The more you're rotating your hand and reaching forward to try and grab it, the more that wears on you after a day of riding. There have been days where, before I got these levers, I had another set that I did not have them always set to the right position, and I found myself reaching a lot of the time, and my clutch hand would be completely dead by the end of the day. It was so tired from reaching to try and grab the clutch that just the act of pulling in the clutch it just freaking sucked. It was bad. It was to the point where I wouldn't even use the clutch to shift anymore. Towards the last few miles of my ride, I would just say fuck it and, click the lever up and down to shift it without using the clutch on it. But if you have the setting right where you want it, like the way it is now, my hand is rested on the handlebar and is resting directly on the lever, so I'm not reaching at all to shift. Whether I'm downshifting or upshifting, my hand isn't changing position at all. And on my brake side, I have it set a little bit higher up because I like the idea of reaching just a little bit for the brake, because that forces you to come off the throttle. Anytime you're letting off the throttle, or anytime you're applying the brake, you want to be letting off the throttle. So it's a good practice to have the brake lever, at least in my opinion, set up a little bit higher so you have a little bit more of a reach, so you're automatically off the... It's set just long enough so that my index finger can rest right on the brake lever. I usually ride with one finger covering the brake because it's a lot quicker to, if you need to stop really quick, to already have your finger right on there. And I can generally brake with just one finger. I don't have to have a whole fistful of hand, and they actually don't recommend that either. Usually it's two fingers or one finger or whatever you're really comfortable with as far as getting enough pressure on that brake to stop in the adequate amount of time. Because if you were to grab with all four fingers and really squeeze that thing, you're probably going to go ass over end, because that front brake will grab really hard, and that's not what you want. You want steady, even pressure on the brake, and with the lever set in the right position, you can do that. I used to never stretch before when I would ride, either before the season started or during the season, and since I've been doing that, I found that I can definitely ride a lot longer distances than what I could before. And it's, you know, nothing that has to be too extravagant, just enough to stretch your legs out, stretch your back, anything that, you know, you think would personally help you as far as what gets stiff on you while you're riding. It all definitely helps throughout the day. I mean, I can definitely go much longer than I could before, and you know, this all, you know, is mostly geared towards sport bike riding. It can factor in towards any type of bike, but the most type of rider fatigue you're going to see is someone that is on a sport bike, because it is the most harshest and uncomfortable position to be in. So the more you can do to help prevent that will make your entire day better, not just for the distance that you're able to ride, but the comfortability factor while you're riding. They also make really nice padded seats for sport bikes, because these are probably the worst seats you'll ever find on any type of bike you can get. And every year I tell myself, yeah, I'm going to buy one of these seats. I know Corbin makes one, and there's a couple of other companies I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a while since I looked into buying one, but they generally run between $200 and $300, which is expensive for a seat. And after a long day of riding, there are times I've gotten off the bike and I've wanted to go right inside and order one, but I have never done it. And each season I keep telling myself, yeah, I'm going to get a seat for this year, I'm going to get a seat for this year, and I have just never done it. I just keep thinking, oh, I'll just suffer through it. And it's not really suffering, it's more or less getting used to it. I find out that the first couple of rides of the year, you're not really in bike shape, is what I like to call it. But once you've been on the bike for a little while, you start using muscles that you haven't used all winter long, and you get more in bike shape, and you're more used to using those muscles and being in this type of position, and everything doesn't seem quite as bad. The seat doesn't seem quite as stiff, even though it's horrible. It's so bad. I mean, I honestly can't say why I haven't bought another seat for this thing yet, but I don't know, maybe eventually. Maybe I'll eventually break down and just do it. It's just one of those things that I've kind of learned to live with for the time being. And I told someone just a little while ago that I was not going to go on the Kangamangas Highway today, but this place is like a serious magnet. I can't keep off it, so I'm sorry, Myra. I'm sure you'll find it within your heart to forgive me.